How does the other half live on a cruise ship? I'm telling you that it could be very, very different. But I'm pulling back the curtain, showing you some of the secrets behind wealthy cruisers and the lifestyle that they have on the ship. Here's what you didn't know. Before I get started, just a quick message to let you know that Cruzely is at nearly 100,000 subscribers, and they are all cruisers just like you. So if you find this video interesting, then I hope that you'll subscribe. Now, let's start with what is perhaps the biggest difference between how normal people like you and me cruise and how wealthier passengers travel, and that's with the room that you'll sail in. The high-end suites on cruise ships can look not like a typical cruise cabin, but more like a penthouse suite in the fanciest hotel that you can imagine. These aren't cramped rooms where you have to skirt around the end of the bed to get by, or where you have a shower that you can barely turn around in. We're talking about rooms that run the gamut, but that can include multiple bedrooms, massive bathrooms, and balconies larger than most cabins on the ship. There are rooms with views that rival even what the captain has. And some of the high-end cabins even span multiple decks, with floor-to-ceiling windows that can make you feel like you're outside, even while you're relaxing in the room. To say that these cabins are nice is an understatement. They'd rival some of the nicest rooms that you'd see on land. The only difference? Here, you get views that are absolutely priceless. Another secret of wealthy passengers is that the high-end cabins that can cost literally tens of thousands of dollars, you aren't just getting the cabin, but you're getting a lot of amenities within that cabin as well that most passengers simply don't get. They can be small touches, such as having cotton swabs and lip balm supplied in the room. Nice, but nothing to write home about when you see some of the other things that are available. Robes and slippers are a staple. This cabin offered your own umbrella and binoculars. One amenity you might not want on your cruise is a scale, but I've seen them included in some high-end rooms. Some rooms even come with their own exercise equipment. But what about walk-in closets? Or maybe a bathroom with full bathtub and water closets? Or even a full jacuzzi? Balconies can have your own private hot tub that looks out over the ocean. These days, if you can dream it up and someone is willing to pay for it, then you can imagine it being an amenity in some of the cabins of the wealthy passengers. When the wealthiest cruise passengers sail in the nicest cabins, it's not just a nicer room and better amenities. They also sail with perks that the rest of us, unless we've got top tier loyalty status, we can just dream about. Royal Caribbean, while certainly not the highest end cruise line, it does do a lot to cater to affluent passengers. It offers 3 Royal Suite class tiers known as Sea, Sky, and Star. Both the Star class and the special perks and treatment are like nothing that you get in a normal cabin. You get gratuities included, an included drink package, and included Wi-Fi, but that's just a start. Laundry? It's no extra charge for these passengers, nor is the minibar. They get things like bathrobes, priority seating in theaters, priority boarding, and more. They even get different bedding than what the rest of the ship gets. So I've talked about the rooms, the amenities, and the perks included, but these days, the passengers spending the most, they get even more. I'm talking about areas of the ship that are private to only the highest end rooms and the rest of the passengers never see. The trend is to move to a concept known as a resort within a resort. So you have the ship, but then the highest end rooms have their own pools, their own lounges, and even restaurants that they don't have to share with the masses. Not only are these spots ridiculously nice, but they also don't have to deal with the crowds like you see in other parts of the ship. Meanwhile, they're all hidden away, usually under special keycard access, available only to those passengers wealthy enough to afford access. So far, I've talked about the highest end rooms on the ship, but there's an old saying, money talks, but wealth whispers. In other words, while you certainly have to have some coin to sail in the high-end suites, don't think that the wealthiest people on the ship are automatically in the nicest rooms. There are certainly plenty of people out there that keep a much lower profile and simply sail in a regular cabin. It's similar to how the most popular car brand driven by millionaires isn't a Mercedes or a Porsche, but actually Toyota. So you won't be able to tell these wealthy but low-key passengers from anyone else on the ship. But one thing that might stick out is their loyalty status. It's not always the case, but to reach the top tiers of loyalty, can take upwards of 700 nights sailed on lines like Royal Caribbean or NCL. Even sailing a low-price cabin, it still adds up to more than $100,000 spent on cruises over the years. I'm not saying everyone who sails a lot is worth tons of money, but they definitely do live a lifestyle that the rest of us are envious of. I talked about all the amenities that wealthy passengers can get when they pay up for the big, expensive cabins. But one secret is that these perks are also usually extended to passengers with high loyalty status on the line. So yes, if you sail a lot to the point where you have top tier status, then you're likely to be well off, but just because someone isn't spending tens of thousands of dollars on a fancy cabin doesn't mean that they don't get some of the benefits. For instance, high status loyalty passengers can get things like priority boarding or free dinners, drinks, included perks with the cruise, and even free cruises in some cases. So if you're envious of those passengers that spend a lot more money, frequent cruising may make the experience closer than you think. If you look across all the locked gates into the exclusive areas reserved only for the high-paying passengers that have booked the fanciest rooms, you might not realize that the cost actually can be less than you think. First things first, you can spend as much as you want on some of these cabins. A cruise that may have a balcony room for $1,000 per person can have suites that run tens of thousands of dollars for that same exact cruise. But one secret is that in some cases, they may not be paying that much more than the average room. For instance, you can find some of these high-end rooms for about twice the cost of a balcony cabin. In fact, given that they usually sleep more people, if someone is traveling with a family, it may be roughly the same cost to book one of these suites as it would be to book 2 normal cabins. Plus, you get a lot of perks included with the high-end room. So it might not be that these folks have tons of money to throw around, but are actually smart spenders. As I've said, passengers that spend a lot on the ship can get all sorts of perks that are available to the typical passenger. I've also mentioned that you can spend a lot of money cruising for years to achieve high loyalty status and also get a number of perks included with your cruise. Both those can cost a considerable amount of money. If you want to feel like you're a well-heeled passenger without spending nearly as much, cruise lines are happy to help. Major lines like Carnival and Royal Caribbean, they offer special programs where passengers pay a set fee and they get a number of these typically more expensive perks included. It's called Faster to the Fun on Carnival and it's called The Key on Royal Caribbean. For instance, with The Key, you get priority boarding, a welcome lunch, private time for some activities on board, dedicated seating in the theaters, and even included Wi-Fi. Now, it won't have all the perks that come with the most expensive rooms, but it is a way that you can spend a little to feel more like a VIP. Now, a little disclosure, I've had the opportunity to tour and to sail some of the nicest rooms in cruising at no charge, and I've had a taste of what those wealthy passengers pay so much money to experience. One secret that I think gets overlooked is that while yes, the experience is nice sailing in these cabins, I was struck at how so much of the cruise is the exact same. Think of it like flying first class. It's hands down nicer than flying coach, but you still get to your destination at the same time. On a cruise, you're still visiting the same ports, you're eating in largely the same restaurants, you're seeing the same shows, and you're playing in the same casino. So yes, there are people paying a lot more, but I'm not sure that means people paying considerably less are actually missing out as much as they might think. Now, if I asked 100 cruise passengers to name a cruise line, I expect 99 of them to say something like Carnival or Norwegian or Royal Caribbean. But there are tons of cruise lines out there. If you want to know where the truly affluent passengers go, it's likely not in the nicest room on Carnival. There are names like Viking or Silversea or Oceania or Regent Seven Seas that cater to a higher income level and where wealthy passengers are the rule rather than the exception. In this experience, it's unlike what you'd get from a mass market line, even staying in the nicest room. It's smaller ships, often with only a few hundred people on board. There's more luxury, smaller ports that can't be reached by megaliners, longer cruises, and an experience all catered to the finer things in life. It is a nice ride if you can get it. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you learned a few secrets of wealthy cruising that you didn't know before. Just a reminder to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. There's always more for planning your trip at Cruzely.com. And until next time, happy sailing.